when in a chronic state of overwhelmed, when a nervous system has been carrying a great deal for a long time, there is so much dignity in recognizing that our responses are actually very human. Hi, I'm Jana Shalom, and this is In Good Company. This is a space for those of us who are weaving nervous system care back into our lives without fixing ourselves or trying to get it right. Each month, we hold one real question from the field and stay with it together. If you have a question for us to hold, please share it in the comments or send it to us via email at support@weavinglegacy.com. We are in good company. On today's episode of In Good Company, we are holding a question from the field that feels deeply human and quietly familiar. The question is, why am I overwhelmed? I wonder how many nervous systems have carried this question while also carrying so much more, because overwhelm can feel deeply personal. It can arrive as a quiet sense that something inside of us needs to change, that we should be able to hold more, to carry more, to settle ourselves sooner, to find our way back to steadiness. That we should be able to regulate our nervous systems simply by looking at the context of our lives. There are seasons when the body is carrying more than it has room to process. There are moments when the demands around us grow faster than our capacity can replenish. And sometimes what we call overwhelm is a nervous system quietly communicating the weight of what it's been holding. Today, we are sitting with that experience. I think about this question when I think back to when my second child was a baby. For 3 years, sleep became something I was constantly reaching toward. Each night would begin with the same strange combination of exhaustion and hope. I would reach for the pillow completely depleted, ready for my body to finally settle. Sleep felt like it should arrive immediately. I was exhausted, my mind was tired, and every part of me was asking for rest. And then, as soon as the room became quiet, my mind would start moving. I would replay conversations from earlier that day. I would imagine every possible scenario waiting for me tomorrow. I would create endless little pathways of what could possibly go wrong. What could I have possibly done differently? What could I possibly need to remember for tomorrow? And somewhere in the middle of all of that thinking, a quiet hum of inner self-judgment. Just as sleep would finally arrive, my son would wake up. We used to say that he didn't sleep through the night until he was 6. That was a running joke. But he actually didn't sleep through the night until he was 6. But during those times, which honestly felt like a very, very long period of time, the pattern was clear. Uninterrupted sleep was not something I could expect from my body. I was tired. My mind was working on overtime. And there was a growing sense that all of the managing absolutely depended on all my thinking. But at the time, what bothered me the most wasn't the fact that I had an inability to turn my brain off. What bothered me the most was the fact that I deeply needed rest. During the day, I was with 5 and 6-year-olds who needed my attention, my patience, my presence, and then I would come home to small children who needed those same things, and oftentimes much more. There was very, very little space between one demand and the next. But still, my mind kept asking me to be more capable, more organized, more resilient, as though I was a machine who I could simply keep going by pure will. Looking back on all that, I can see something I could not name at the time. my nervous system was responding to an awful lot. The sleep disruption mattered an awful lot. The constant responsibility mattered. The limited recovery time mattered. Conditions mattered. And that realization became the beginning of a different relationship with my own experience. What surprised me was that I could hold two experiences at the same time. I could feel overwhelmed, and I could also begin noticing what was surrounding the experience. And that distinction felt important because for so long, my attention naturally moved to the experience itself. Why can't I get enough sleep? Why can't my mind quiet? Why does this feel harder than it seems like it should? The questions kept returning to me. Over time, another question began appearing. What has my nervous system been carrying? And that question created a little bit more room. It allowed me to see that my response had history. It had context. It had conditions surrounding it. The exhaustion was real. The responsibility was real. The longing for rest was real. And my nervous system was responding inside of all of that. I think many of us knows what it feels like to experience something difficult and immediately turn towards it as an explanation of who we are as a person. We search for what's wrong with us. We search for the missing skill. We search for the thing that helps us identify what we need to improve so that other things can get better. But a nervous system, when in a chronic state of overwhelmed, when a nervous system has been carrying a great deal for a long time, there is so much dignity in recognizing that our responses are actually very human. There is something deeply human about a body responding to what it's asked to hold. The question, am I overwhelmed, can become a doorway into curiosity that leads to compassion, a doorway into seeing the whole landscape of an experience before deciding what it means, especially before deciding what it means about who we are as a person. I think this is one of the quieter shifts that can happen when we begin seeing ourselves in relation to the conditions of our lives. We start making room for the whole picture. And as we make room for the whole picture, the season we are living inside of begins to make more sense. The types of things the days are asking from us make sense. The type of support that either is available or not makes sense. The space where recovery time isn't available makes sense. All of that belongs in the context of the story. And there is something so tender about realizing how we've asked ourselves to overcome experiences that we've been trying to understand for the pure purpose of remaining productive. How often do we look at our own responses and we think of it not as everything we're carrying, but we're thinking about it in the ways that we are essentially failing, whether that's our definition or someone else's. Maybe our nervous system is beginning to allow us to recognize the relationship between what we've been carrying and what our capacity actually has availability for. And maybe for some of us, this is the first time we allow our self-judgment to soften. The experience has a story. The response has a reason. The nervous system has been trying to help. So if the question has been finding you lately, am I overwhelmed? Perhaps we can sit together and allowing that question to remain open, because curiosity is what has been shaping this new lens of experience. And when we do this together, we are in good company.